right. Hey, y'all are going to be doing your academic planner business in Spartan time today. If you don't remember that from last year, that isn't registration. That says, I'm going to click a bunch of drop-down things in Campus and say, these are the classes I plan to take. Registration for you doesn't happen until the end of January. It's like the second week of the semester. Okay? But they expect you to come into registration day knowing exactly what you're going to be doing. So, I've talked about it before, but after this class, like an air traffic controller map from hell, right? Right now, y'all are right here. So you have a choice. You get to register next for either I want to go to a tech school or a four-year school. I want to go to college. You're going to sign up for the regular Algebra 1 class. Okay? This class gets you the bare bones of what you need to just graduate and be done with it. Okay? If you want to go to a four-year school, you register for this. A four-year school is like Black Hill State, Mines, SDSU, a four-year degree, a bachelor's degree. Okay? Now, you don't have to go straight to a four-year school if that's not your jam. In fact, I strongly recommend if you are college bound, start at a tech school. Get an associate's first, then transfer to a four-year school for the last 2 years. Okay? I strongly recommend that. Option 2, I want to go to a tech school. I don't want to go to a four-year school, but I want to go to like Western Dakota Tech, Lake Region. What's the one in Cheyenne?
That one. Is it like Area Tech and Cheyenne? No.
No, that's East
Is
River.
that UW? No.
No, there's another tech school that's got some pretty good programs in Wyoming. I forgot what it is. If you want to go to a tech school, you need at a minimum geometry on your transcript. So you would sign up for geometry, and it's got the little asterisk next to it, just like this algebra does. Okay? You're not going to have all of the information to go into the regular geometry class, but you're going to have enough to go into that one. It's just like this class, except geometry. Okay? It's watered down a little bit for kids who just struggle with math. They cut out some of the proof stuff, some of the like nasty radicals and formulas. They'll cut out some of that stuff and keep it to, yo, this is the basic geometry stuff that everyone should know. Okay? Option 3, I just want a diploma, get me out of here. In that case, do not pass go, do not collect $200. You're going to skip those and go straight to business math with Mr. Keeler. Okay? Those are your 3 options coming out of this class. And it really is, it sucks to do this to 16-year-olds, but it's what do you want to do with your life? Because those 3 paths are dependent on what classes you take. You cannot go to a 4-year school if you don't have a minimum Algebra 2. A minimum Algebra 2. And you are not going to have the skills from this class to go into an Algebra 2, so you're going to have to do the Algebra 1. If you want to go to a 2-year school, the minimum you have to have on your transcript is a geometry. So you go take the inclusion geometry right after this. If all you want is give me my piece of paper and get me out of here, Go take business math. Okay? Those are your 3 paths. You decide what you're going to do. But I'm making sure all of my kids know, all of my classes know, this is your plan. Just like I wouldn't tell you what English classes to take. I wouldn't tell you what science classes to take. I'm not an English or science teacher. I don't know what the correct pathways are for the different diplomas. I want to tell you the math stuff because I know the math stuff. Cool? Okay.
So that would mean like 4-year school, algebra 1, then geometry.
Then regular geometry, then algebra 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And if you're going to do that, there is one section, every year there's one section of a everyday 1 semester Algebra 1, which would allow you to take this and this next year, Algebra 2 your senior year. Okay? Yeah.
So what would be like the best math classes if you're gonna go like to like an auto mechanic shop or like college for a college degree?
If you want an associate's degree, like a degree, not a certificate, the difference between degree and certificate is certificate, I am a certified diesel tech. I am a certified welder. I am a certified this. You don't have to do the generals. The generals are like college algebra, college English. They'll have like a science requirement, that kind of crap. Not crap, it's good stuff, but if all you want is a certificate, you can go do business math and then move on with your life. But if you want a degree, the lowest degree, post-secondary degree you can get is an associate's, that requires the generals. And to get an associate's degree, you have to do college algebra at a minimum, and college stats. And for that, I would recommend at a minimum doing geometry next year. And then when you go to college, they'll have you do a remedial math course that's like algebra 1.8 and then college algebra. Or you could choose to go algebra, geometry, algebra 2. You have choices, is what I want you to get on this, is you do have choices.
So basically, if I wanted associates, I just go to geometry, the inclusion class.
If you want an associate's degree, the minimum you need to do is do geometry, and then you will do a remedial math class, a college algebra, and a college stats in college. Okay? Like that's the ground floor. If you want a degree of any kind, it is recommended that you leave high school with a minimum algebra 2, because college algebra is like algebra 2.1. Like it's barely more than algebra 2. The reason that's required, there's a lot of abstract stuff in algebra 2 that 95% of the human population will never use, and it's useless to them. But it's all stuff that helps you with, say, 3-dimensional Cartesian coordinates on a CNC mill. Anyone ever seen a CNC machine? Ever been in a machine shop and seen them program it so it mills out a particular part for them? You got to know math to do that. And algebra 2 is kind of the ground floor for that. So, also, you don't make money if you know how to run a CNC properly. So, I told you that you're going to have your final as normal on the 10th. It will be in here, second block. You'll have the entire period. You will have open notes, open everything. But I'm just telling you right now, it's going to look exactly like this review with different numbers, just like our quizzes. Okay? We didn't get all the way through the 2B packet. Just hang on to it, because that's where we're going to pick up in 2 weeks when we start second semester. We're just going to pick up there. Okay? Sometimes that happens. So just hold on to the 2B packet until after finals. Everything that you need for the final will be right here. I'm going to give you everything spelled out. Do this, write this. Here's your notes all in one spot. You should be able to walk into your final with just this piece of paper and be good. But it is open everything. Okay? All the way back to August. Back in August, the first thing that we talked about was properties. And there was a bunch of them. If we don't remember all the properties, we don't have a cute little note card or something like that written out, then I recommend you use this whole space, like I'm going to write out what the properties are and examples of them. The first one, 3 plus 4 is the same as 4 plus 3. It doesn't matter what order I do things in. Anyone remember what they're called? Order doesn't matter. Huh?
I said I don't even think I was here.
Well, I know you weren't. It was August, dude.
Guess at this one says commutative property.
It is commutative.
Aha.
Remember that if it's 11 miles from my house to the school, it's also 11 miles from the school to my house. The order that I traveled in when I commute does not matter. The distance is the same. This is the commutative, and then you're going to say it's the property of, and you're going to have to tell me, is it commutative property of addition or commutative property of multiplication? Because both of them have that. Okay, so whether it's 3 plus 4 or 3 times 4, okay, in either case, that's commutative property. The order doesn't matter. The other big one that went along with it was if I had 3 plus 4 plus 5, 3 plus 4 plus 5, or 3 times 4 times 5, or 3 times 4 times 5, the way that I group things doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the order that I group things in parentheses. As long as it's all addition or all multiplication, it's going to be the same answer. They're saying it doesn't matter which you do first. Do you remember the other big one? Commutative and associative. And again, it's going to be the associative property of addition or the associative property of multiplication. And you do have to say which one. Then, if I took something like 5 and added 0, what do I get? What's 18 plus 0? What's 139,612.8 plus 0? Whatever I just said. Hey, Emily, what's your name? It's almost like that is your identity. Okay, this is called the identity property of addition. Identity property of addition says if I add 0 to something, doesn't matter, it's still that thing because I didn't change its value. Okay, if I gave Emily a sombrero and just said hang out here with sombrero in the middle of class, doesn't matter, still Emily, right? What do I multiply by to keep the identity? If I say like 4 times what is 4? 1. If I ever multiply something by 1, it stays the same. That's the identity of multiplication. Multiplication's got another one that wasn't in our packet, but we wrote it down because it's special. If I take 4 times 1, I get the same thing. If I take 11 blue times 1, I get 11 blue. What if I take 4 times 0? The zero property of multiplication says if I take anything times 0, it's going to be 0. Okay, so multiplication gets 2 special properties all by its lonesome. And then the one that'll kind of confuzzle kids because it looks kind of like associative, but it's not, is when I try to smash together multiplication and addition. If I said 3 times 4 plus 5, that's the same as 3 times 4 plus 3 times 5. What's that called? When I say, as soon as I draw it, then we know 3 times this and 3 times that. Distributive property. And it's not distributive property of multiplication, it's not distributive property of addition, it's just distributive property because it has both. Okay, so those are our 6 special properties. And we kept using them over and over throughout the whole semester. Number 1 and 2, just say, tell me what property it is. But you don't have to demonstrate any math, you don't have to do any operations, you just have to name the critter. So, name the critter. What does this look like? Did they change the order or did they change the grouping? Right? It was 3, 6A, 3, 6A. The order was the same both times, but they changed where the parentheses were. They changed the grouping. So this is the associative property. Please put a few extra letters on there if you're going to abbreviate it. Of what? That's all you have to do for that one. But I do want you to have these written down as notes because then it's right there. It is right next to the problem. Number 1 is going to be next to number 1. You get to tell yourself how to do the final, and so long as you have been doing your work, when I finally get through those packets. Y'all, I didn't leave the walls of my house for 20 straight days, except for urgent care at the hospital and snow removal. I did not touch those packets. Baby Bear had a month-long double ear infection and ended up with surgery. And my boys and then me all got RSV. I'm a double med asthmatic, and it put me in the hospital twice. Okay? I did not get to the packets. I will get to the packets. But when they're finally in, if you've done your work, if you're at like 80% or better on your homework, your assignment completion, doing the stuff in class, you get a higher grade on your final than your grade going into the final. Cool, that's your grade now. You could walk into the final with 72, get a 90 on the final, and I'd say, awesome, you got a 90 for the class. Because you showed me on a cumulative exam, you understand it better now. So please write this stuff down. I'm just, like this isn't even an underhanded slow pitch. This is T-ball, okay? I'm just putting it in front of you. Yes.
So basically what you're telling me is that if I miraculously get 100% on my final, I get 100 for the class.
It's happened 4 times in pre-calc in the last 7 years where a kid has aced the final and got 100 for pre-calc, and they have loved it. It has only ever happened once in this class.
I'm just saying, if that
Bring
happens,
it. I would love if that happened.
If that happens, I deserve a
Okay?
party.
I deserve a party. Talk to your mom about that. 2. Which of the properties is it? Identity of. Okay, make sure that you say that. It's the identity property of addition. But this stuff right here, sorry about this kind of going off on my soapbox again. I want you to be successful. I want every one of you to walk out of this class with a minimum C. Okay? And we're teeing it up for you and just saying, hey, go hit that. Okay? I want you to be successful because you are still doing the work. We're just going to be fully supported the way that we should be. All right. Below that, we have 6 problems that are all about exponents. We spent a lot of time on exponents. So wherever you got room, I want you to write out our exponent properties. Like if you got space over here, that'd probably be a good spot to put it, kind of box it in there. If you don't still have a couple of you made those cool little note cards that had everything in one spot. But I would put it like right here, all of my exponent properties. Property numero uno. If I take an exponent times another exponent of the same base, do we remember what we do? Have we beat that horse to death enough? What do? It's an expression. We don't hit horses.
I'm just going to go on a limb here and say you just add the exponents.
You add the exponents together, right? This says x times x times x. This says x times x times x times x. Well, if I just smash those together, I get 7 of them. So I'll write that as x to the 3 plus 4. So I remember what I do with those. Now these all had names. This was called the product of powers property. I'm not going to make you write all that out. I care if you know the math. Okay. Part 2. What if instead of an exponent times an exponent, what if I took an exponent to an exponent? We multiply them together because you're saying I have 4 of these triple x's. It's x times x times x, and that happens 4 times. So altogether, 4 times 3 is x to the 12th. And if I had too much stuff all getting exponents, remember, what if I had like 5x to the 3rd y to the 4th squared? What if I just had a whole bunch of junk in parentheses? Who's getting that too?
All of it.
Everybody, right? It's like everyone's in the car and someone's on the hood of the car, right? Everyone inside is affected by that. So I need to give this guy a 2, and they are all multiply because it's a power of power. I need to give this guy a 2 and this guy a 2. It looks a lot like distribution, right? They're all getting it. It's like the Oprah math thing. You get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. Well, they're giving everyone a 2 because they're all in parentheses. It's a package deal. Where we have to be careful with that, yeah, that's 4 by 2 is 8. 3 by 2 is 6. 2 by 1 is 2. I'll see kids year after year after year. I've seen some of you do it still. If I see this, what does that mean? 5 to the second. That's not 5 times 2. That means a 5 times a 5. A pair of 5s. Remember that numbers have their own laws, exponents have theirs. With that, do we remember where all the buttons were? I said, everyone get a review and get a calculator. Do you know where the exponent button is on your calculator? On whatever calculator you're going to be using. They can look like this. Sometimes it'll be an X with a box. Sometimes it'll be a box to a box. Most of these are on scientific calculators. Or our graphing calculators are going to have, it's called the caret. It's like a little up arrow, a little mountain peak. Okay? Does everyone know where your exponent button is? If you're using any of my graphing calculators, I know those are overkill for this class. It's like hunting with a bazooka. Okay? But it's what we got. Everyone should be able to find that caret button. It is on the far right side, right above divide. Okay? So if I said yours is a box to a box, or an X to a box, X to the box.
It puts answer, so you have to have 5 typed first. Because it puts answer before it when you type.
Correct. If you're trying to do 5 squared,
Yeah.
you do 5 and then the button.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's just
Yep. And that's why I said you all have to know what your calculator does. There's a lot of kids who will know this is what my phone calculator does. Y'all don't get your phone for a test. You're not going to be Slater and photo math in your final. Okay? You're going to get a normal calculator. If you don't have your own calculator, you got to use mine. So you have to know where the tools are that you will be using. All right. Oh, the easiest one we had, the one that most of you loved seeing when it came up on a test, is if I take anything, take that big mess right there, anything to the 0 power. What is it?
0.
Nope. 1. And it's because, say I had like x to the third over x to the third. Well, that's 1, 2, 3 x's, 1, 2, 3 x's. What's 5 divided by 5?
1.
11 divided by 11?
1.
X divided by x.
1.
So this is 1 times 1 times 1. Okay? Whenever I have no more x's left, whenever it's something to the 0 power, it's just 1. And it could be as big and nasty as you could imagine. If it's to the 0, still 1. Okay, switch over to, instead of multiplication, switch over to division. If I have x to the 5th over x to the 3rd, you remember what we do? Subtracting, yeah. Because if I wrote that out longhand, that's 5x's up top, 3 on the bottom. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Maybe you remember it as the who's got more game. Who's got more? By how many?
2.
because there were 2 x's left after I canceled everything out. So mathematically, we say that we subtracted that. This is x to the 5 minus 3. And you can always write them out longhand like this too. Like if you're just stuck, you can write everything out longhand and cancel stuff. That works. Seeks. What if I got a bunch of junk divided? Like x to the 5th, y to the 4th, all to the 2nd. Now what? Who gets that too? Everybody inside, right? It's on the parentheses. It's on the hood of the car. So that's x to the 5 times 2, y to the 4 times 2 is x to the 10th over y to the 8th. Be careful. You can't combine those now. They are different critters. Turtles up top, giraffes on bottom. They're just going to stare awkwardly at each other. You can't mate a turtle with a giraffe.
Are you discriminating against Jerry? He is a proud member of this society.
I told you. You can try, it just ain't going to accomplish anything. That's the whole reason. That's where this reference came from.
I accomplished
Okay,
Jerry.
what about donkeys and horses make mules? What about that?
That's possible. That would be like x to the 1/2 over x to the 10th.
I'm just saying, you're discriminating.
That's a rational exponent and an integer exponent, and we learned that in regular Algebra 1 and again in Algebra 2. Because this is really the square root of x. They're cousins.
Ew.
It's like
What's cousins?
Hey.
the horse and the
Excuse me. I am
donkey.
South. I know.
Hey, if you got a sister cousin, that is just
I
fine.
do not have a sister cousin, thankfully.
The last one.
Disgusting.
This is my brother, uncle. For number 7, if. Do you remember what happens when I have a negative exponent? What if it's x to the negative 4th? Do we remember? You're too negative.
Oh, go downstairs.
Go downstairs. And now you're happy. You're positive. Or what if I'm already downstairs and I'm negative? Go upstairs. As soon as you're away from the person who's making you mad, you're not too shabby. Okay? Those are our 7 rules of exponents. And numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all about exponents. So we need to have these rules somewhere handy. I would like you to have them on your review because then it's right there in front of you. Okay, does everyone got these? I can erase them. No one's going to freak out. Hey. It's Fonzie. Get your out of generation references right. 3. Do I see any exponents on parentheses?
Mm-hmm.
Is it on the parentheses themselves? Because if it is, you got to deal with that first. Like if there was a 2 right here, you would have to deal with that first. When I was grading through the last stragglers of tests, I saw a couple of kids doing this. Why is that wrong?
It's only touching the one parentheses.
I'm on the hood of this car, not the car behind them in the drive-through. You can't be on both of them at the same time. I mean, unless they coordinate, like get really close together and you like straddle the hood and the bumper of one.
That's what
Okay.
I was saying. Try really carefully.
Yeah.
Try Charles Red.
So, since I don't have that to deal with, I'm going to put turtles with turtles, giraffes with giraffes, tunas with tunas. I'm going to put the number next to the number, 4 times 3. I'm going to put the x next to the x times x to the third. I'm going to put the y next to the y to the third times y to the fifth. And I could rearrange that because of that commutative property. Commutative says the order I multiply in doesn't matter. If this is all being multiplied, then I'm going to put stuff together that's going to go together. And I ask, what is 4 by 3? Y'all remember what exponent is right here? I didn't write 1, but we have to know there's a little invisible 1 there because x times x to the third is not x to the third, it's x to the fourth. And y to the third times y to the fifth, there's 8 of them all together, so y to the eighth. Do not stop it. Try to do this. Why is that wrong? Why is this bad? Why do you get the frowny face of doom? They're not the same critter. X and y are not the same base. If they're not the same base of the exponent, then the exponents can't go together. Okay? That's that turtle at the Phoenix Zoo trying to get with the giraffe's leg.
Why discriminating against Gary's parents? Jeez, he's a proud member of this society. Try to accept him one day.
Like,
It
it took halfway through the semester before my pre-calc realized that when I say random crap like this, it's not just because, it's something that happened. Mine was someone's going to break my rules. You know, every time Leighton comes over, he's going to eat my goldfish, so Leighton's not allowed to my party. They thought I was talking about goldfish crackers. No, my friend ate my girlfriend's goldfish.
What?
Like a cat. He just went up to the tank and was like, and then laid on the floor and said, I can feel it moving.
Ew.
The dude, okay, he was a kickboxer. Like, he'd been hit in the head a lot. The guy was not right.
And not trying to be rude. Show.
So when I say something like a turtle and a giraffe, it's because I actually saw a turtle trying to, like.
I'm just saying, God is not discriminating against Gary and Barry. They're my children, so they can't discriminate.
Number 4.
I will uphold this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Like, she didn't let him come over anymore because he ate her fish every time he came over. Dude was weird. Number 4. Do I see an exponent on parentheses? Because you got to deal with those first. Okay. So it's like distribution. Remember, there's a little invisible 1 here with the 5. And look at your rules. What do I do with an exponent to an exponent? Multiply. So this is now 5 to the 1 times 3. This is x to the 4 times 3. Y to the 2 times 3. I know that y'all can do this mental math. Please, at least on your review, write this step. Because how many of you, oh, I know how to do that, and you don't write the step. And then you go back to look at your work and you have no idea what you did. Because you didn't write it. Write this step now so you know what's going on in 6 days. Okay? And then, that's x to the 12th, y to the 6th. They are not the same critter, so they don't go together. What is 5 to the 3rd? I just said y'all got that button on your calculator. What is 5? No. That's 25 times 3. You're heading down the right direction. It's 5 by 5 is 25 times another 5, 125. And even if you're good with mental math, I know some of you, the moving letters around is what bothers you, but just hard number facts, some of you are really good. Check it with your calculator just in case. I don't want you to get points off because you went in just a little too much swagger, right? I don't want you to come in, cocky and thinking I can just mental math everything and get that one easy point off. And maybe it's the difference between you getting your first A in math. Maybe it's the difference between you having a C and getting out of Spartan time. Maybe it's the difference between you passing. Okay? I don't want that to happen to you. So please double check stuff, even if you're confident. 5. Again, you got to be careful with who's touching what. Who's this 3 going to?
2.
Both of them, because it's touching the parentheses. Package deal. Who's the 4 going to?
The B.
Just the B, because it's only touching B. Who's the 5 going to?
4 and B.
To the B to the 4th, because that's the parenthesis it's touching. Okay, so you go here and here, invisible ones. That's 2 to the 1 times 3 is 3. A to the 1 times 3 is 3. B to the 4 times 5 is 20. It hurts my soul when I see kids do that, so I know that they know exponents, and then they don't finish the problem. Why is this not done? I know what 2 to the 3rd is, or my calculator does. What's 2 times 2? Times another 2. 8. Call that 8 in the 3rd B to the 20th. If any of you just had the, the gif of Snowball from Secret Life of Pets, where he's just like, what the? Right? It's one of my favorite gifs in the world. I love that. I send that at my game club kids all the time. If that, the 2 to the 3rd, wait, what is he talking about? If that caught you, write a note next to this. Tell yourself, make sure to evaluate the numbers. Make sure to simplify number to exponent. Tell yourself that so you don't goof it up. Okay? I want you to do well. I still have a standing bet all the way from last year. If I get an entire crew of my algebra class that gets C or better, I have to get a tattoo.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was going to be a math tattoo. It was going to be something punny and stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if everyone in the room gets a C or better, bring it. Dear God, no, that's going on my body. They didn't get there. There was a couple of kids who they were hanging in there, and then the last month they just kind of fell off the bridge.
What if I give you this nice, crispy $1 bill?
There you go. I'll get a picture of Jerry, the turtle laugh. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a little incentive to go through the head.
$1.
I'm broke until tomorrow.
Okay.
My bank
You're
account
literally
is
the
full
Progressive
now.
commercial right now of the old guy with the fishing pole. I got you $1.
I mean, that's
6.
kind of what I was going for.
Who gets that -4? Everybody. So you get a -4, and you get a -4, and you get a -4, and you get a -4. Calm down, Oprah.
I just put remember Oprah. Makes it better.
But, ruh-roh, Raggy,
Yeah.
everyone in that house is negative right now.
They need to switch places because they're all negative.
Just swap places, right? Upstairs negatives go downstairs. Downstairs negatives go upstairs. All of them are negative, so they're all going to switch places. So it's 2 to the 4th, z to the 4th, x, back up, 3 to the 4th, x to the 4th. Still not right. It's close.
2 to the 4th and 3 to the 4th.
Tell me what 2 to the 4th and 3 to the 4th are. If you got to use the calculator, use the calculator.
16g to the 4th and then 81 x to the 4th.
Someone confirm. I don't know if I trust Leslie.
What? I did it on the calculator.
Yeah.
Jeez, why don't you trust me? I'm a very trustful person. Why are you side-eyeing me like that? I'm trustful. Jeez. Because I want you to get a tattoo on yourself like Gary, and you have Gary with you. Will you leave? Jeez. So,
I still don't know 100% if this is done. Because, can I reduce 16 over 81?
yeah.
Okay. And this is where a calculator is really, really handy. If you don't know of a number that goes into 16 and 81, remember that any calculator that has fraction mode on it should simplify fractions for you. So if I type 16 over 81, well, that's not a fraction. Y'all been in here all semester. Do you remember how I turn stuff into a fraction?
Alpha Y.
Okay, alpha y equals is a shortcut menu if you're using the graphing calculators. And option 1 says, I just want to write it as a fraction. Option 4 says, I want you to change a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to a fraction for me. So I could do that. Or I could use the alpha y equals to just type it as a fraction, 16 over 81. And if I just hit enter, it will simplify it for me. So what does it mean if it just told me the same thing?
We can't simplify it.
That is as simplified as it gets. Y'all are teenagers. You understood as soon as you hit high school and social dynamics changed, hormones, that sometimes the simplest it gets is still pretty ugly. That's it. The orange stuff is the answer. Okay. All done. Oh, someone didn't catch me. Someone didn't catch me.
No, someone said it.
Someone didn't catch me.
See? It's supposed to be on top. And the X is supposed to be on the bottom. What the heck are you doing, sir? Naughty. Bad Solomon.
Is that it?
No! You switched your
Oh.
Bad Solomon. We don't do that.
See, I wanted to. Frank, why you got to group them now?
Because Frank's trying to be nice. And at least we breathe. We don't choke on air. We breathe.
I was choking on the kettle corn.
Well, then just don't eat the kettle corn popcorn. It's not that hard.
No.
Breathe. We don't.
So anyway, the next page.
All of it.
If you're going to have a medical emergency, please do it out in the hallway so I don't have to deal with it. Number 7.
I hope you just casually go But no, seriously, I don't want to deal with that.
First up, do you see an exponent on parentheses? Okay, so I don't have to deal with that. Do you see any negative exponents that can move? If I see a negative exponent, I can choose to move things right away, or I can choose to simplify it and then deal with it later. Both are correct, both work. In my experience, most kids are going to want to move that right away. And if you notice, they already have things kind of lined up for me. And if I move that other one downstairs, now he's positive. But do you see how turtles are already with turtles, giraffes are already with giraffes? It is already set up where exponents of the same base and numbers are already lined up together or grouped together. So if they are, I just showed you on the calculator, how do I reduce 15 over 35, or negative 35?
Hit that Y button.
I do alpha y equals and type 15 over negative 35, hit enter, and it will simplify it for you. Or do you know what number goes into 15 and 35? Okay, both of those are divisible by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 35 divided by 5 is 7. And then the negative, you can kind of choose. You can leave it downstairs because that's where it was originally. Or you can bring it upstairs, right? Because negative 3 divided by 7 or 3 divided by negative 7, they're both still negative, which means you could also just leave it out front. All three of those are the same, okay? It's just the difference between you're wearing a shirt, you're wearing a sweater, you're wearing a parka, okay? It's just, it's where I put this doesn't matter, it's still the same value. So I'm going to putting it on the numerator is considered more proper. Like having a negative on denominator is, it's kind of a, we don't do that here. It's okay. The A's. Option 1 is I take 3 minus 4 and get a to the what? But now that's a negative exponent. So, goes downstairs. I could also do that with the who's got more game. Just look at these two and say, who's got more? So he has one more than the other. So I'll just put A downstairs. So you can either subtract and then the negative says put it downstairs, or you can just say who's got more. What do I do with these guys, the B's? Add the 5 and the 2, because when I multiply exponents of the same base, I just add the exponents together. That is B to the 7th. And that's it. You can't do anything more with it. So,
A little off topic here, but about the Gary tattoo.
nope.
Are we doing fancy Gary or normal Gary? Fancy Gary comes with a, tie and a top thing.
Number 8. Whoa. Check your rules. One. Anything to the 0 is 1. So even though there's a bunch of stuff in there, don't matter. A bunch of stuff to the 0 is still just 1. Ta-da. Okay. It's kind of like someone lays out this big, long, complicated plan. You know that friend who mooches off you all the time? They want you to pay for their lunch. You're like, okay, no. What if, okay, just hold on. What if you got lunch today, and then tomorrow, when I get this check, then I'll give you this much in the morning, and then I'll pay off this other person, then I'll give you this, and they put out this big spiel, like they got a business proposal, and you just say, no. All the stuff to the zero is just 1.
You just sounded like my brother when I did business teams. Anytime he wants money from me, he's like, no, just hear me out. I'm like, or better yet, no, thank
No.
you.
So, do you have your perfect square list or multiplication chart still?
You're funny. Yes.
If you do not, I have a few multiplication charts left.
I will totally take one of those off your hands.
I only have a few, literally just a few.
Yay.
Okay. Do you have yours, or we need to reload? You're good, or you want one? Okay. There you go. The reason we want these is because our perfect squares are those bold numbers down the corners. Because 4 times 4 is 4 squared. Okay, so these numbers are going to be important for what we're going to do here. You got yours, or want one? Okay. Want one? Did you find yours? Okay.
So if we have the perfect squares thing.
Perfect square list also works. I got one left. Going once. Twice.
So no, seriously, so what's that a Gary tattoo? You want a fancy Gary?
See, what's going to be funny is if that actually happened and I got the tattoo, then you would be confused because I'd have a picture of this zombie holding a bunch of gold. He'd say, what do you, that's not Gary. And I'd say, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Great Merchant of Asphodel. It's a magic card. We call him Gary.
I know.
So, the reason I need to have that multiplication chart or our perfect square list is because look at the numbers in those square roots. Aren't they all my special perfect squares? So there's 2 ways to do this. Way number 1, and I don't know too many of you who did this, I'm going to write it out anyway, is I could write this as 25 times x to the 6 times x. I would just chip one of those x's off to the side because the square root of 25 is 5. And do you remember how we do square root of variables with exponents? Okay, when we write it out longhand, a pair rush the guard, one gets out alive. Well, how many pairs go into 6? I would just divide it by 2. And that tells me there's 5x cubed on the outside, and x left inside. How many of you did it that way? I know most of us wrote them out longhand. Okay, but sometimes we can get away with this. If you're stuck, okay, I don't want, if my truck gets stuck, I'm moving snow, I don't want to get out and shovel. I don't want to get out and push. But if I'm stuck, I'm going to do it because I'm stuck. If you are stuck on this and you don't know the perfect squares that go in, remember this. Break it up with your prime factor trees. And I would rewrite this whole thing as 5 by 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x's. If you're stuck, you can write it out longhand like that and then tell me. Okay, CJ, you kind of said that perfectly. How do they get out of radical jail? Okay, this is a square root, so it's like a level 2 guard in the doorway. It takes 2 of them to bum rush the guard. But one of them dies in the attempt. 2 rush the guard, 1 dies in the attempt. 2 rush the guard, 1 dies in the attempt. 2 rush the guard, 1 dies in the attempt. And that's how I end up with 3 X's on the outside, even though there were 6 on the inside. Okay. Now, see this guy? He didn't have a buddy to pair up with. He didn't have anyone who wanted to rush the guard with him. So he's just going to stay in radical jail all sad and lonely. Okay? Now I showed you that one because this guy had to get broken up. These are all perfect squares. So you can just cut those to pieces as is. What's the square root of 361?
19.
The square root of a to the 10th. Remember,
5.
I divide it by 2, a to the 5th. The square root of b to the 8th.
4.
Yep, b to the 4th. Because I just cut the variables in half. Now, 13's got a little bit of spice on it. Square root of 9. Square root of w to the 18th. I am not writing 18 w's.
9.
Divided by 2, right? What did you just do?
I looked at the paper.
That multiplication chart isn't just for perfect squares. Was that faster than typing it on your calculator?
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all, use your resources. I am not going to be the teacher that says you have to memorize all this stuff. I want you to have the resources to do things your way. If that means I need a calculator or a multiplication chart to do the arithmetic, go for it. I care that you can do this math, even if you need help with the other parts of it. Yes, that is w to the 9th. But here's the problem. Those are coming out of radical jail. Look who's out of radical jail to begin with. Okay, that's their buddy hanging out at the curb waiting to pick them up when they get released. So what are they going to do now? If the 3 and the w to the 9th came out of radical jail and joined the 13, I multiply them all together. They're going to party. And I turn that into 39 w to the 9th. And again, as I was going through those last stragglers of quizzes, I saw a couple of us fall victim to that, where you would take that 3w to the 9th or something like that and just completely forget about the 13 on the outside. So if that's something that got you, write a note next to it. Say, multiply it with the outside stuff. Okay? Tell yourself how to do the test. You know, if I'm doing different repairs on my house, you know what? As a homeowner, my stepdad didn't teach me diddly. You know how I learned to fix stuff? YouTube. And it works. Look stuff up. Okay? That's how a real functional adult works. All right. First, are 196, 48, and 75 on my perfect square list? Are they special?
Wait, what did it say?
Oh, 196 is. Okay. So 1 out of 3. What is the square root of 196? But they had a negative in front, so I need to put a negative with my answer. Okay? What was the other thing we saw? Not just negatives. Like a tree, sometimes we saw a plus or minus in front of it, and that would enter it. These ones, again, if you know the biggest perfect square that goes in there, great. If you can write this as 16 by 3, because the square root of 16 is 4, awesome. But you got to know numbers real good to do that. I bet there's 2 or 3 of you who could do that. But for most of us, or if we just have a brain fart and forget, how did we deal with these? You said the tree thing, right? I'm going to break this up. You said 24 and 2? And you keep breaking them up until you hit all prime factors, things that can't get broken up. So I can't break up 2, but what times what makes 24? 12 and 2. Okay. What times what makes 12? 6 and 2. What times what makes 6? 3 and 2. So I'll write out, do you remember what goes in the radical? Only the prime numbers at the ends of the branches. This guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. So I'm going to write all those. Honk. Here, 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 here. And then 2 rush the guard, 1 gets out alive. 2 rush the guard, 1 gets out alive. So I'm going to circle a pair, 1 gets out. Circle a pair, 1 gets out. Try to circle a pair and say, nope, he has no friends. Stay in jail. The 2 that are outside of radical jail can now party. We got 4 root of 3, which is exactly what I had up here if I just found the biggest perfect square. This involves less work, but more memorization, more number facts. This involves more work, but you can do the whole thing by breaking it up with a calculator, a multiplication chart. Depends if you get stuck, right? Down here, I'm going to change my screen here. So, whoop, is big. I break up this guy. What times what makes 75? Okay, 3/4, 3 and 25. Or you could have said 15 by 5. You know what? I'll show you that. And if I break this up, I get 5 and 5. If I break this up, I get 3 and 5. The reason I'm showing you both is because I want you to see it doesn't matter which way you break it up. That's because multiplication is commutative. So it doesn't matter what way you break it up, no matter what, you are still going to have a 3, a 5, and a 5. Circle a pair, 1 gets out alive. So 1 gets out, and he sees 3 waiting for him at the curb and says, let's party. They're all outside, so now they get to multiply. That's 15 root of 3. All right. Stand up. Shake it off. That's a lot of math. That's a lot of math. Whew. Especially after being gone for, what? It's been like 3 weeks since we've done anything in here? Okay. No, because you all had FUBAR day the day that I was gone after the storm. When was the last maroon day that we were all in this room? The 12th, December 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it has been 3.5 weeks. Whew. All right. We got time for a couple more. Whatever we don't finish today, that's just what we're doing Friday. Okay? So, whew, finish strong. Ready?
Sure.
After we made it through all that exponent and radical stuff, we had what I think most of you said was one of the easiest things we've done the whole semester. And it was the domain range thing. What is domain and range? X's and Y's. Okay. Uh-oh. I'm next to a graph, and I'm not the best at graphing because I always mix things up. What should I put right next to it? Remember the arrow thing with my X's and Y's? If I have an XY coordinate, X's go left to right, and Y's go down to up, like that. I would strongly recommend putting that next to it. Oh yeah, as several of you have already seen, or we got restocked. We got some good stuff up there this time. There's like straight up cookies and pretzel goldfish and like 9 kinds of chips. We got flavor up there now. Okay, if I want to list out the domain and range, which is X's and Y's, I should first probably know what these coordinates are. If you can tell me what the coordinates are just by looking at them, great. But most of us are going to have to write the coordinates next to them. B, way down here in the corner. From the origin, from the crosshairs, it goes how far left, how far down. So it goes left 4, down 3. So since it's left, it'll be a negative 4. Since it's down, it'll be a negative 3. Okay, that little cheater right there, I've seen a few of you put that on your quizzes, and I know that saves you. What about A? How far left or right did it go? 3 left, so it's negative 3, and no up or down, so it's 0. What about C? How far left or right did it go? 0 left or right, and 2 up means 0, 2. And D. Okay, it went 1 to the right, positive, 2 down, negative 2. So most of us are going to do better if we write the coordinates out like that. Now that we have them written, my domain, do you remember these little squiggle brackets to say this is a set? A set is a group. And as long as your squiggle brackets look kind of squiggly and they don't look like 3s, we're good. List out all of the x's. There's an x, there's an x, there's an x, there's an x. Negative 4, negative 3, 0, 1. The range is the y's. So there's a y, there's a y, there's a y, there's a y. Personally, I put them in numerical order. You don't have to. As long as you got them there, it doesn't matter if they're in order or not. Okay, 12 asks you to do the same thing. but it's already in a table, nice and organized for us. The pitfall here is going to be the kid who gets lazy. Well, domain is x's and range is y's, right? But if I'm asking, who came to your classroom today? And Jasper comes in during class and then comes in again after school. Do I say Jasper twice? No. Look at your range list. We repeated ourselves. So don't just get lazy like that. Please say domain, list them all, but don't repeat yourself. Oh, okay, that's just all of them. Range. List them all, but don't repeat yourself. A -3, a -2, and it happens again. So I only write it the once. A 1, and it happens again. Only write it once. And then a 6. Okay? If that was something that you, again, kind of, oh, dude, I totally forgot about that. Write a note next to this one. Tell yourself, don't list things twice. Okay? You get to tell yourself how to do the test. Womp womp. Mapping diagrams. We're very close to the domain range thing because I start by listing domain and range. I say domain, range. What was domain again? All the x's. Is that first or second? The first part of the coordinate. If I don't know that, off to the side. Okay, so I'm going to list out all the x's. For me, this kind of looks like number soup. So I make sure to do something like this. That way I can distinguish what the x's are. Now I'll write those out in order because I like them in order. You don't have to. And then for the range, maybe you do that one as a squiggle. Or maybe you do box all of your y's. Just something to help you visually separate them. Again, don't repeat yourself. 8, 11, 21, 21, 21. You see how that's going to mess with us, right? So only write it the once. And then, right now, this just tells me domain and range. Do you remember how to turn it into a mapping?
Among Us.
Among Us. Connect the wires. -11 goes to what?
21.
Shh. -6 goes to what?
21.
Shh. -3 goes to what?
11.
Shh. 0 goes to what?
21.
Shh. 1 goes to
8.
shh. There goes the trash. Okay? That is a mapping diagram. You have to have those wires connecting. I'm going to cut it off there. Okay? When you come in on Friday, we're just going to hop right in and finish. Okay? I expect that stuff might go a little faster because it's got a lot of equation business that we've been doing recently. So it should be fresh in your mind. All right? Y'all are doing good. Stay strong. Only 2 more times for the semester.